joining us today for MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show Buzz Reaction. I'm Ruth Nelson, joined by Hall of Famers Mick Haley, Bob Bertucci, and Brian Gimolero, bringing you the most current issues and trends in volleyball. Our weekly news show has leaders in our sport provide their perspective on the questions that are asked, along with the discussion on topics that are current and ones that are affecting all of us. Our newsflash: if you listened to our show September 8th with the first NIL deal with Chloe Mitchell, who created her own company, Playbook, she was recently interviewed by the #1 reporter that provides the most current information on NIL deals. Jump over to Christy Dosh, Game Face NIL podcast with Linktree for student athletes, which was released this week, or you can just catch them on businessofcollegesports.com. 2021 NAIA Women's Volleyball Championship Regionals, November 30th through December 2nd. The semifinals on December 3rd and the championship on December 4th will be streamed on ESPN3. 2021 NCAA Division II selected 64 teams, and the final 8 will meet December 9th through the 11th in Tampa, Florida. Do you know of a volleyball player that has an NIL deal? Please have them message us, as we would like to share their story. Register today for the 2021 AVCA Convention in Columbus, Ohio, December 15th through the 18th by jumping over to avcaconvention.org. Today, you will hear University of Pittsburgh head coach Dan Fisher talk about his journey and how and what he has done over the past 8 years building his program. You'll also get a chance to hear his insights on tonight's match against Louisville. So let's head over and listen to Dan Fisher. So let's head over to Austin, Texas, with former Olympic coach and 4-time national championship coach Mick Haley, who will introduce our guest today.
Thank you, Ruth. It's a real pleasure today to have one of our top coaches in the country on. I'm really excited to introduce Dan Fisher to you, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Panthers. And boy, he has taken this program to the top. In the last 8 years, he's won 3 conference championships. He's winning at an 89% rate. Hey, Brian, that even beats your percentage at Long Beach. So I want to note that.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, and he's number 2 in the RPI, that dastardly RPI. He's got his Pittsburgh team up there at the high level, meaning he's playing all the top teams and he's doing well. But Dan, before we get into some serious questions, you had a spirited match last week at Georgia Tech. Really, your conference has kicked it up, and 4 or 5 teams in the conference. You can't go anywhere without a good match. But tell me about this match. I was doing the Sun Belt Conference last week, and I heard a rumor come over that we had a fan that wanted to offer some help to the referee. What happened there? Can you tell us?
Well, first off, thanks everyone for having me on. It's I appreciate you all doing the show, and I'm a fan, so it's good to be here. That was an interesting interaction between a fan and a coach. Just leave it at that. There's some good YouTubes floating around that a lot of people are getting a kick out of. But Georgia Tech's a great team. Their gym is one of the loudest I've ever played in. I've considered over the years playing with earplugs in. I have a whiteboard that sometimes it gets too loud. I just write something on the whiteboard, but it's the kind of gym where no matter what I say, even if it's the most complimentary thing in the world, it sounds like I'm screaming at the players. So I'm yelling, "Great job," but it looks like I'm screaming at them. So it's just a really loud environment, a great college atmosphere.
So it was a fun match, right?
It was a fun match. They just stepped all over us the first set, and we kind of just, chipped away from there on out.
Yeah, your team's really good at that. They don't seem to get to panic or anything. They just seem to come back. And I think that's a reflection of the coaching. It's pretty interesting. So how did you, in 8 years, turn this program into basically one of the top 4 teams in the country. I mean, this is quite a story. It sounds easy. It sounds every coach wants to do this, but you've gone into a state that Penn State has owned for a while, and you've just dug out your own space, and now it's at least a 2-team state, and maybe you're on top of that. We'll have to wait till the tournament to see, but be interesting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's as you all know on this show, there's no one thing that goes into winning. It's a combination of a lot of things, but this group is a group I've trained a long time, and that's gotten a little bit better every year. And we don't have, very many of, top recruits. We just have really good recruits that we've just kept working with, and that have taken their game to the next level every year, just bit by bit. And then for this season particularly, I think having the same group back from the Elite Eight run and then adding Lecator and Serena Gray to our team was kind of just, it gave us more depth and just gave us a little bit more firepower.
How many local kids do you have, meaning Pennsylvania kids do you have? Do you recruit basically local first and then go out and look for special people all over the country and maybe the world?
Yeah, we're equal opportunity. We look all over the world. I mean, obviously, if there is a good player locally, we would take them over to tie to the local player. But we have three from Pittsburgh area, and then 2 from Cleveland, which is about 2 hours away, and then the rest are from, we have girl born in Nigeria, Hawaiian, a bunch from the West Coast, in Texas. So we're pretty representative of the U.S. at this point.
And you've been pretty happy with your setter.
We have 3 really good setters, and so one is a 6th-year player in our program. The other one's a 3rd-year Hawaiian player, and then we have younger sister of a former setter of ours, and then we have a freshman from California who's really coming on strong lately.
That's really good. Well, Brian Gimolero wants to say a few words here. Brian, can you hear me? Can you come on there?
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know it's a busy schedule. And Wednesday is the closing, pretty exciting match. I looked at the first time you guys played, and it went down to 15-13 on the evil team's home court. So, what should we look forward to this Wednesday night tonight?
Yeah. So I'm not always the best loser, as I think all of you understand.
Absolutely.
That was a game where I felt like, we played one of the best that a Pitt volleyball team's ever played. It was 13-all in the 5th, and we just didn't quite pull it out. I would expect both teams to bring it again. I mean, they're the number 1 team in the country for a reason. It's going to be a sellout, so the atmosphere will be great. From an X's and O's standpoint, we didn't serve that well. And I think part of it was they played with a different ball there. We're a little bit more used to playing with the Molten. So we hope to be a little bit stronger in our service game. And then, we played well with our block and defense, but getting a few more would be huge. We got tooled a fair amount. So in those kind of games, just one more dig or one more block go a long way. So, that's, we want to serve better and then just, be a little bit better in blocking D.
It's not very often that one plays 2. I mean, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's fun.
With the, I'm fascinated by stats. You can be overwhelmed by them, and I try not to be, but there's certain ones that I really appreciate and think have a good understanding of what's happening. But your team is perplexing to me. I'm looking at all your stats and talk to me a little bit about the BYU match. BYU has had no trouble with anybody except you. And tell me a little bit about that match.
Well, yeah, that was a couple months ago, and we kind of served them off the court. The only perplexing thing about our team is just basically stylistically, we tend to take a few more chances out of system. So sometimes you'll see, so we swing it more, which leads to less rallies, which leads to less digs per set. So sometimes you'll see, if you just look at stats, that our defense doesn't look as good, but if you look at, we're averaging more digs than our opponents by a lot on the season. But typically we get blocked a little bit more than our opponents because we go after a little bit more. So we're usually kind of lead the conference in getting blocked, but we're lower on, we're a little bit lower on unforced errors. And so yeah, that's kind of like stylistically probably what you're seeing with some of those.
What I see is you do everything well. I think I don't think there is a one stat that is far superior than any of the others, but it looks to me like you do everything. You play defense, you block, you hit, you serve. It looks like the team, and I always think that team has the best chance. And the reason is if one part of your game isn't working, other parts still are. And
right.
So if you're playing against a team who relies on blocking and they're not blocking very well, they're in trouble. But it's intriguing to me. I'm excited about watching this game. So what do we look forward to in this? Yeah,
well, I appreciate the compliment. I think that's something we strive for, is to be good at everything. And so, but I agree. I think, you don't, if you only rely on one or two things and those aren't going well, then what do you fall back on? So yeah, I think we are a complete team, but I also feel like, Louisville is pretty darn good. I don't know.
You never know. You never know.
What are the specific things that Louisville does that bother you, that you're worried about, that you have to either stop or somehow compensate for?
Well, they are one of the best blocking teams in the country, and we take more chances out of system. So that is a kind of an interesting matchup. Is like, in the first game, they didn't block us that much. Our offense was pretty good. I just think we're very evenly matched. Is how I feel. That they have, two middles hitting for a really high percentage. They set the middle really, really fast. It's a real it's like a zero tempo slide, basically. And so it puts a lot of pressure on our left sides to be in the air as they're hitting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that worry me about them.
Yeah, we don't, if they've tuned in for today, that we don't want to say anything because they still have 3 or 4 hours they can change something here.
Yeah, let me go to Bob. Bob has had some technical difficulties, but he's back on now.
Bob, are you there?
Oh yes, unfortunately I had many technical difficulties, but I did finally get back on. And I don't know if Dan, I'm really excited to talk with you because, when you first came to Pittsburgh, you invited us out a couple of times when I was coaching at Lehigh, and, we got to see you starting with the program, and I've kind of followed, your success as it's been going along. And I think you've done a tremendous job. And I'm just wondering, what were your priorities when you first came to Pittsburgh in developing the program?
Well, thanks, Bob, and yeah, those were some fun fun matches in the early days. The main priority was, when you don't have a ton of talent. Like for me, the main priority was how we training the whole game. But in terms of recruiting, we probably erred more on just bringing in big arms, even if they weren't as high. And then just, establishing culture and, just establishing how hard we wanted to train and how we wanted to treat each other. And that's something, obviously the culture is something you work on all the time.
Well, Pittsburgh hasn't seen success like this ever. I mean, it did have a very successful program with Mike Hebert and Shelton Collier, back in the 70s and 80s. What has this meant to your volleyball community in Pittsburgh and the university in general?
Well, I should probably say, mention that I probably wouldn't have the job if it wasn't for Mike Hebert. He put together the selection committee here, and we had spent the previous summer doing a USA trip together. So he had a big say in me getting the job. And I miss him, tremendously. He was always a good person to bounce ideas off of. So I think, our fan base has grown all the time. The game will be a sellout tonight.
How many
I think
people
it's
is that?
meant. Go ahead.
How many people is the sellout?
Well, we're a little limited. It's usually a little over 3,000, so it'll be about 2,600 because of how we're doing COVID seating. But I think what it's meant. I took the job when we were still in the Big East. So I think from a school perspective, we used to be just a football, basketball school. And so I think now, we're a legitimate Power 5 program. We have us, and maybe wrestling had some, Western Pennsylvania we're known for that, but we have us, wrestling, men's and women's soccer doing well. Our football team's having a good season. So I think, we've been part of helping, Pitt be seen as a legitimate Power 5 and a great program. So I think that's helped our school. In terms of the community, this sounds crazy. I mean, you all know this, but there's still people that haven't really been exposed to women's athletics. And so we still get people that come to our game that are just kind of football, basketball fans, and they have an idea of women's sports, and they come and they go, wow, and they just didn't know. And so I think we've helped women's athletics just by people realizing, hey, I want to go support this team, and I'm looking forward to it. And it's mind blowing to us because we're in the biz, but there's still a lot of people that just haven't had exposure to really elite volleyball.
Wow.
That's great. Great.
I like that idea. Thank you for making that comment about women, because now you're on my A list.
I'd like to stay there.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a few things on recruiting, but I also have one thing I want to ask you first. You said that this quote makes and means a lot to you. Motivation is temporary, inspiration is permanent. I'm trying to lead an inspired life, which was written by Kelly Slater. What does that actually mean to you? Because you've stated that many times.
Yeah, I think everyone needs a good dose of motivation from time to time, but really the reasons why I coach are because I love volleyball and I love helping other people be successful. And so those are the things that inspire me. Mm-hmm. And I want to be around athletes and other coaches that are inspired every day. And, and then there's the spiritual level of just the inspiration filled with the spirit. You want to be, we're just so fortunate to do this job. And so, I like to remind myself of how blessed I am every day.
Okay. So with that quote, then you're going to tell me this really affects the way you approach your recruiting then. Is that correct?
Well, yes, it affects how I do everything.
So in other words, Mick asked you the question, you're getting recruits from all over the world, not just all over. And there are 2 programs in Pennsylvania. In case some of our viewers are watching, they need to know that there's Pittsburgh and Penn State, and probably many other colleges that would like to be recognized at that same level. But do you feel that being in that area, recruiting a player from international becomes fairly easy now that you've gotten so much more visibility over the last 3 to 4 months and all the successes that you've had?
Well, I'm never going to agree with anyone that uses the term easy and recruiting together. So I don't, recruiting's really hard, it's really, really hard. The thing that's so gratifying about this group is that, with the exception of Serena, who transferred in, we never had a top recruiting class. These are a few years ago, I got Kayla Lund and Chinaza Inde, and then Lane Van Buskirk, who's now playing professionally, to all commit within a month. And that's when I knew. I said, hey, they're not the top kids, but they could be. And so it kind of, so we've kind of built this with those kind of athletes. So it just says a lot about the people and the work they've put in. But in terms of where we're at now, I have seen a shift, especially this past recruiting cycle. After we made the Elite Eight, we were able to get our foot in the door with more of the top players. I'm not able to talk about it much, but I think our 2023 class is as good as the best class we've ever gotten. So,
Okay.
I'm feeling as good as I've felt about recruiting.
Okay, so do you consider, when you go to recruit an athlete, do you consider yourself a technical recruiter or a tactical recruiter when you watch a kid?
More technical, because but I would say I'm more of an emotional recruiter.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Good.
Well, you see talent, right? And then
Right.
and you go, okay, they have an arm or they jump a certain way, and then you're just like, you're trying to enter a relationship with them. You're gonna have to, you're gonna look at their face for 4 or 5 years, and then from then on, you're just trying to connect emotionally and convince them that they want to be around you for a little bit.
Well, it's obvious that you have been emotional enough to get the recruits that you've had. And the question will be are you an emotional coach during matches, or are you very mild mannered, or does it depend on the score?
No, I'm emotional, but here's how. We have a great sports psychologist, Bernie Holiday, and he works with us. And the intent is to play or coach with emotion, not to coach emotionally.
Oh, okay.
So
Excellent.
the idea is to, hey, if they're flat and I need to ramp it up a little bit, so be it. But I'm not just ramping it up because I'm pissed off or something. to try to, or if they're a little too queued up, I might be the one that brings it down a little bit, but just to try to choose the right emotion to influence the group.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. We all are going to be watching how emotional, or when you become emotional during this match tonight, because we know it's important for both programs. It's important for our sport. And Dan, I want to thank you for making this sport fun and enjoyable to watch, and always displaying a professional approach in the development of your own program. And we want to thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for all the contributions you've made to the sport over the years. It's an honor to be on with you.
All right.
And good luck.
Thanks,
Great
Dan.
job.
Look,
Thank
1
you.
versus 2, Dan, 1 versus 2. Very exciting.
Have a great practice.
All right.
Great.
Okay, Master Coaches, we have a few minutes, so let's talk about Dan Fisher before we close out the buzz.
Well, I really liked him. I think an interview like this, if you're a recruit out there, you really found out a lot of things about this guy. He hasn't really been showcased very much, and he gives you kind of a different look on the sideline than what we just heard. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, one of the things, that hit me, even when I was asking the question, he just kind of touched on recruiting until Ruth really kind of delved into it with him.
Pulled it out of him. Yeah.
I just know, from my standpoint, I really like to get in the gym and train players, and I like to teach. And unfortunately, I think, right now, college volleyball is, 80% recruiting, and he made a big jump when he started getting the right kids and elevating the level of athlete he had in there.
Well, transferring with the portal now can, in 1 year to the next, can change your program when you only have 7 players starters, you get 1-2 transfers, your team can be completely different. So recruiting is a different thing now. I did want to say something about the match. I think it's interesting that he teaches his players to go for it when they spike the ball. They swing at a lot more balls. He said there's no caution to the wind kind of. On one side, I think that so often players aren't prepared for a bad play. Hitters aren't prepared. And then a good set comes out of it and they're not ready to hit the ball, so they don't. So that bothers me. But at the same time, I think too often rallies are ended foolishly. And I don't mean to be cautious, but I don't think players should score for the other team, So I'm really excited about watching it tonight and seeing who, is it going to work? Is that caution to the wind, take a chance, take a risk, which players like to do. And I think it's a popular thing for him to talk to players about. And I would like to see what happens with that. Does he miss a lot of spikes? Do they get blocked or are they successful? And I'm very interested in see how that manifests itself tonight.
Well, Brian, you really hit on, I think, a real key point, for coaches in general. The fine line between, going after it and recognizing, hey, this is not the time to take that risky play and just give away points. And it's real hard to, it takes a lot of experience to figure out, when to make that right decision.
All right, great input, you guys. You ever missed one of our shows? You guys, have you ever looked at one of our shows? Jump over to Instagram and click on our YouTube channel link. Follow us on Facebook at Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. Want to make a difference? Please remember to renew your AVCA membership, this one organization that represents all coaches at all levels when lobbying for changes that are needed in our sport. You can make a difference by registering at avca.org. We now close out today's buzz, and be sure to stay on as we have a coach that her team is now ranked for the first time this season, which we've talked about many times. And we also have the head coach of the 2021 NCAA Division III championship team. And we'll finish out the hour as we reveal the Master Coaches top 25 along with RPI and AVCA rankings. A special thanks to our Buzz and Buzz Reaction digital partner, Dr. John Foreman, for being part of our show and being an influencer in our sport. All right, so for those joining us for the Buzz Reaction for the first time, today we have the honor of having a coach that has accomplished excellence with her program all season and finally is recognized for her team's results. Also, we have the D3 NCAA championship coach to talk about her road to the Final Four. And of course, we'll preview our Master Coaches top 25. Now I go to you, Mick, as you get to have the pleasure of introducing our next guest.
Well, you have to tell me, is it Julie? Okay, then I'm really excited. I'm really excited to introduce Julie Darty Dennis, the head coach of Mississippi State, a coach that's taken a program that virtually was invisible, and she's got herself in a situation right now where she's going to either finish first or second in the SEC. And we have two matches this weekend that are going to help her. She's got to take care of business by beating Auburn. But as I understand it, and I'll go to Julie here in just a second, if the combination of Florida and Kentucky splitting or somebody winning two there, she's guaranteed, if she beats Auburn, a first or a second place finish. So Julie, come on in here and say hi and tell us what's going on with this program.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me. There is just a lot of joy and excitement and good energy in Stark Vegas. And this year feels like an overnight success, but I think everybody knows how building works. And so this is our 4th year here, and it's just taken its sweet time to reach this point, but it's been an exciting ride so far.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Bob Bertucci coached in that conference when he was at Tennessee. Bob, what do you want to ask Julie about this?
Well, Julie, this is clearly the best ever Mississippi State has ever done in volleyball. I mean, Ruth had sent out to everybody a note the other day. It was the first time you were ranked in the AVCA, Coaches Poll, 24th in the country, in 40 years. Right? So I'm going back 40 years ago when I was at Tennessee, and it was just a long trip to go to Mississippi State and play, but at least you knew you were going to win and you come back. So what specifically has allowed you to raise this program to the current level?
I think it started with when I was here on my interview years ago. They heard my vision, and they really did the administration really did a great job of supporting the vision and allowing us to have the resources that we needed to pour into our building. So our gym is called the Newell Grissom Building. It's essentially an old cow barn, but we've really got to put a lot of lipstick on it and fix it up and give the student athletes a space that they can be proud of and they call their own. So it started there. They allowed us to upgrade with a lot of cool stuff over there. And then I think our leadership group has done a fantastic job of helping just build and create the culture that they want. And I really want it to be player driven and player led. So they set out their core values and standards for this year on report date and presented it to the coaches. And we just really help them manage it and hold themselves to those things every single day. But this is a group that's driven and focused, and they've had on their goals sheet that they want to go to the NCAA tournament since day one. That's always been the goal. And we've always thought they've been dreaming pretty big. But this year we scheduled a little bit tougher, and we tried to help them reach those goals, and it worked out pretty well. So I just think the support from the beginning and the belief from everybody who's made the tough choice to come to maybe a bottom dweller program and believe that we're going to do these things.
Well, it's really interesting because Dan was just on just before you, Julie, and he highlighted recruiting and culture. You just mentioned funding and culture. So I think we might have found the 3 things that you need to have a successful program.
Absolutely.
What has it meant to the volleyball community and the university as a whole?
We've had some incredible fans since we got here that have been with us even in our first season when we were 1-17 in the SEC. So we have a lot of really committed fans. But I will say that every sport at Mississippi State has had a moment where they've been ranked, or they have made postseason, or they've just had their time to shine. And I think our girls were just finally at that point where they really just wanted to have their moment. And this has been incredible. And the community and the town and the school has just been unbelievable at their support. And it's been fun. My girls have been little overnight celebrities, and just it's fun to watch them get to ask little kids ask for their autograph after matches and stuff. And it just makes me feel so happy and proud that they're having this moment this season.
Has Coach Leach been in for autographs or a history lesson?
So Coach Leach actually invited himself to a practice after Halloween because he heard that we had some candy over at our gym, and he actually wanted to come show us how he prefers to serve, and that is flip-flops kicked off, and he strikes the ball like this, and he is convinced that that is the way you get aces. So he missed a bunch of serves, and he kicked his shoes off, and then it was aces only. So he was a trip. He came and talked to the team, and we had a big time with him.
That's great. Well, Brian, you've heard what Julie and Dan have said, and you with your program at Long Beach State definitely had the culture. I definitely did the recruiting part of it, and fought like crazy for the funding. What questions do you have for Julie?
Well, we used a lot of lipstick, tell us about this weekend. Now, how does it going to work out? Everybody should know you're second in the conference right now, and you're 27th RPI. So you're in. I'm assuming you're in. Now, what happens this weekend? How can it best turn out?
best case scenario, we take care of business against Auburn on Friday. That is the only thing on our mind right now, is prepping for Auburn. Timing wise, Kentucky and Florida do play before us that day. So I guess we'll get to have lunch and watch that and sit around and see what happens there. So going into our match, which is also our senior day celebration, I think that we'll have probably some high emotions and a lot of energy and stuff, but I think we'll be focused and dialed in. We know what we have to do. So best case scenario is we beat Auburn and the Kentucky-Florida series is a split and we can win a share of the SEC regular season title. That would be the most amazing thing for this program.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Is there a chance, do you look at it as a chance to potentially be one of the 16s? 16
Honestly, I don't know if I have the capacity in our little barn to do that, but I haven't got that far ahead. We're having a little selection show, watch party and dinner on Sunday and invited everybody that touches our program. And I think we're just so excited to sit around and hear our name called that we haven't really even thought about hosting. We just want to hear our name called and figure out where we're going, who we're playing, and that we're actually in. Like, we just want to be in.
Congratulations to you, by the way. Coaching, I used to tell our players when you get interviewed, tell them it's all coaching, and I was lying, but in your case, it might very well be true. Congratulations.
Thank you. The players deserve all the credit. They've been an easy group to coach, and we're just happy and excited for them.
Ruth is going to close out here.
Actually, I'm going to let Mick ask a question, as long as he doesn't take my time too.
Well, I was thinking through that, a couple of things. I snuck in Coach Leach because honestly, he tells some of the best stories ever. I have followed him from Texas Tech to Washington State and now to Mississippi State. But I thought, he does everything he can to help other teams do well. Maybe you could enlist him in some fundraising to get you a new facility or an upgrade, because he's pretty good at that, and his stories are special. But when you got into this, did you think that you could turn the corner like this quick? And has the portal helped you in any way?
Okay, Mick, don't ask my question.
Oh, okay. I can't ask that question. Can't ask that question. So are there any things that you can put your finger on specifically that have helped you jump forward this quickly?
Definitely. I did not expect it to happen this quick, but it's funny that you had Fish on earlier. Fish and I had a call this summer just because I've had several people work for him that are just like in awe of what he's doing there. And we just had a culture call just to talk through a couple things. And I've really made a shift this season in the amount of communication and conversation that I'm having with my players. And I've watched so much less volleyball. I have less time to watch film because I'm talking to my players more and having role clarity conversations and just finding out how they're doing and what's stressing them. And I think that having those relationships and having good foundations allows me to have those tough conversations. And when you have a roster of 18 people, making time for every one of your kids to have these conversations that they're not on the clock, but we can just talk through things, takes a lot of time, but it's definitely paid off. And I think it's been really, really valuable for me to have those kind of talks with every kid and just kind of feel where they are. I mean, even asking like, how do you want me to communicate who's traveling? Do we like a depth chart to be posted? Just because it's not the same for every kid. And so the communication and trust has gone through the roof this year. And I think it's because we're having those tough conversations. And that was a lot of stuff that Fish told me about. He's like, you got to make more time for your athletes, let your staff scout, do travel, do all that stuff. You'll watch video, but like, you need to know your team.
That's something we're hearing from a lot of coaches right now. It may be coaches haven't done that, but a lot of coaches have done that. Do you feel like it's more of a need of the student athlete these days, the student athletes we're dealing with these days? Maybe years past, the athletes haven't needed this or demand this as much, but today's athlete really requires this?
I do. And I think it's even gotten to the point where I don't have them come to my office anymore because there's a scary component about coming to the head coach's office.
Yeah.
So we go on walks. we go have tea or coffee, and I basically let them set the location so that it's kind of on their terms and on their turf. And I think that helps with like them being able to just feel vulnerable and be able to have real conversations. But I do think there's a need to just have constant communication with your kids. They have a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stress in their life. After the year they had last year, I think that there's so much that they just feel the tension with.
Ruth, we've talked to two coaches that certainly have shown us why they're being successful. What do you got to ask here?
Well, here we go. Mercer to South Carolina, to Jacksonville, to Mississippi State. Super seniors with some transfers, 4 players from South Carolina and 5 players from Florida. Would you say to a young coach now coming in that you should go to as many places as possible so that you make all those connections?
So you left out my first job. I started my career at Villanova under Josh
All
Stein.
right.
All right.
He is the best boss in the world. And the one thing that I do say is I wish that I had worked for more people before I came a head coach at Jacksonville. So I wish I had spent more time. I only had 2 head coaches that I worked for, and I learned a lot, but I've reached out. I have a lot of mentors and a lot of people that I talk to. So yes, I think it's so important to talk shop with people. And the older I get and the longer that I'm in this, I keep telling people, I'm like, we're not reinventing the wheel. So I wish more people were open about what they're doing in their program and stuff. And I think we've got a really good group of coaches in the SEC that have conversations and talk, but it's all about getting to know people. And I mean, my staff I've known for years. We're all from Florida. We've all coached together before at some level or known each other for 10 plus years. So I think we have really great connections in the state of Florida. And that's why we do have so many Floridians on our roster right now.
Okay. So for all those players and parents that are listening, what can you say? And my time at LSU, Mississippi State was the seller. They never pushed past the seller. I mean, and Ole Miss was right next to them.
I know.
So how can you say to these parents, because they think that if you're not the top team in the top Power 5 conference, there's not a place that you can match up and have a great career in volleyball and also have great education. So to close out, what would you say to all those players and parents?
You know, I think that this was a high risk, high reward recruiting opportunity. And I have a lot of kids on my roster right now who took a big chance coming here and understood our vision and trusted that. I think now it's interesting. We saw a huge jump in recruiting even after last year with some signature wins. But to me, you got to look past the wins and losses, and you've got to really make sure that it's the experience you want with your coaches, with your teammates, with the town. A lot of these SEC towns are small towns, and a lot of kids don't know that. And it revolves around athletics here. So if you're looking for a big city, this is not the place. We don't have a Target. But I think you got to do your homework. You got to do your research and just learn about each place. But I really think there's a place for everybody out there. And obviously not everybody's going to be top 2 in the conference all the time. That's just not possible. But you got to kind of look at, do you want to be the big fish in a small pond or the small fish in a big pond, and really make some really tough choices and kind of take inventory of what you want. But the recruiting part is fun.
That's great. Hey, thanks, Julie, for working and getting on I know you had a tight schedule, and we tried to get you for a week, and we've been looking forward to having you on the show for some time. Best wishes for continued success in the upcoming SEC matches and postseason play. And thanks again for coming on.
Thank you all so much for having me. Hail State.
Yes.
Good luck, Julie.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Let's bring on our next guest, Mick. And you have, again, the pleasure of introducing this outstanding coach who has a story to tell all of us.
Boy, we're hitting a home run on our coaches today. We have 3 absolutely fantastic interviews. I've learned a bunch so far, and I can't tell you, we're so welcome to have Kim Wudi on, the national championship head coach from the University of Wisconsin-Eau. And they have won the National Division III championship. And I'm telling you, I've spent 14 years at Kellogg Community College in Battle Creek, Michigan. I know Calvin College. I know they've been good for the last 40 years, and you knocked them off 3-0. congratulations and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. We're so excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what's it feel like to be on the top? I've had, fortunately, an opportunity like our other group coaches have to have won some pretty significant events, but wow, this is the first one for your school, right? And
First in volleyball.
yeah, and this is first for you also.
Yep, absolutely.
So what goes through your mind when this happens? Because it's fun to relate. Brian's done this, Bob's done some things like this, Ruth's done some things like this, but what goes through your mind?
I'm so proud of our student athletes. I think that's the first thing that just the wave of emotion is really for them to have experienced this. I mean, I didn't get to as a student athlete. I didn't win a national championship. So for them to have that, and I just in a little way just trying to live through them and those big wide eyes that they have and them lifting up that trophy. I think knowing all of their personal stories and knowing what many of them have been through individually, especially with the pandemic, just to be able to see the joy that they had was really, really special. So
does this open up your thinking though a little bit more? We all strive to do this and it finally happens. Now, are you just enjoying it, or have you gone to the next thing and started thinking about what else can we do? Can we do this again? What do we have to do to stay up on top? All of those things. Have you gotten to that point yet?
So it's funny that you say that, because I don't even think we left the arena floor and I was like, let's do it again. I think that's the competitor, right? That's the competitor in all of it, all of us. It's just like the process and the journey to get there is really the fun part, right? I mean, the mountaintop moment only lasts for just that moment, that small moment. And so I just, as we're getting the photographs that come, from all of the celebration and everything, but also through the moment, through the year, the different pictures and stuff, I'm like, let's do it again. I want to do it again,
Bob Bertucci took over a men's program that was hardly functioning and took them to the Final Four. And Bob, I know you experienced some pretty special feelings being able to get them to that point. What do you have to ask here?
Well, I'm so enamored by the photos that Ruth kept putting up there. I was watching every celebration that your team had as you were talking. She was flashing photos on the screen. I really enjoyed watching those. Kim, I'm trying to be pretty consistent with everybody we've been interviewing. So I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked, the coaches before you. What specifics have allowed you to raise your program to this current level of success?
Yeah, we've been traditionally a strong program in Division III, and by strong, I think regionally strong. We're the team that we're usually regionally ranked, and the other schools want to schedule us to boost their schedule. And I don't mean to say that in an arrogant way, but we've really busting through to that next echelon of Division III teams has been our goal for a long time. But I think what really it came down to in 2017, we actually had a lot of toxicity in our program, and we really hit the reset button on our culture. We kind of rebuilt it from the ground up, and we reestablished our mission, our vision, values, standards of behavior for on and off the court. And the group of seniors that got another year of eligibility with COVID, we had 3 that finished their careers with a national championship, and they were the first group that kind of came in with that new culture. And the seniors in 2018, we had made it to the Final Four in 2018, were part of that rebuild. And so just to kind of see, just to come full circle was really, really magical, really cool.
Well, we've heard culture from every coach now. All right. And of course, we've heard recruiting from every coach. And the one thing we don't have too much control over sometimes when we go to different programs is the funding. And obviously you must have gotten enough funding from your program to get you over the top. And I think that's great. So what has it meant now to your volleyball community that you've won a national championship and your university in general?
So I'm gonna tell you a little secret about the funding, and that is that really what the growth of volleyball in our area has really, it has been largely because of the club scene and Junior Olympics. Badger region in our area is the USAV region, but our funding has come a lot from those club tournaments, and we have sold a lot of hot dogs and hot beefs to fund our program. So anybody who's been to our tournaments, we take a lot of pride in our concession stand. So, that's all joking aside, that is, we work hard for our money, so to speak. So
Got to get the funding somewhere, one way or the other.
somewhere, and the hot beefs are really good. So, but what has it meant to our area? Our volleyball is a big sport around, northern Wisconsin, and, certainly into the Twin Cities area. We're only 90 minutes from the Twin Cities, from Minnesota or Minneapolis. So our volleyball camps, we had over 800 campers this past summer after not having camps in 2020. So just to be able to share our sport and grow the sport with young people. And our local club team is trying to get a boys team together for the first time ever. So it's really fun to see the growth of the sport and to have a little bit of a role in that as well.
Great.
Okay,
Well, I know Brian
you
has
got-
some specific questions too, but Ruth, go ahead.
Brian, you and I are gonna have quick questions left because Bob decided he was on a roll. But hey, we appreciate that, Kim.
Well, I was going to ask a question, but listening to you it's really remarkable. I think that, and it's so often in the volleyball world, Division I schools perhaps don't realize the amount of effort it goes when you're talking about selling hot dogs to get your funding. I mean, it's a remarkable thing for players to see and to do. I mean, it's you're going to have to work for it and to earn it. And I think that's a great lesson. And congratulations for doing that. Not all coaches want to do that. This floor has all done all kinds of things like that, but
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear it. Let me ask you about, were you predicted to be the #1 team preseason?
No, we weren't even in the top 25.
I love it.
That's even better. That's
Yeah.
even better. That's all I want to hear. I'm turning it over to Ruth. That's wonderful.
Okay, Kim, 13 years. You started as an assistant. You've received almost every award from USA Volleyball Service Award, Badger Region Board of Directors, along with CAP Level 2, your master's in BS from your own alma mater. Now, do you think all of this has helped your recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, when I have recruits in my office, I mean, I bleed blue and gold. I mean, I love our university and the things that it has brought me. I mean, my sister-in-law was one of my teammates. So like, it has literally built my family. So yeah, it's been quite a ride, and it absolutely helps recruiting because I can just speak from a place of just love and pride that I don't know that if you're not an alum of your university, it's hard to do that.
Well, I think that you've set a standard because there are a lot of athletes that are going back and coaching, but I think they think it's easy to go back and win right away. But I think what you've done is you set a different role for all those young coaches out there. And I just want to say thanks for providing us a little of your journey to the NCAA National Championship. And after listening to your interview with Hello Wisconsin, I want to tell all of these guys, we look forward to you and watching your team to go for the second national championship next year.
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
Win
And we
again.
Thank you.
Win
Thank you
again.
for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just a minute. You want to give some of those viewers out there, those parents and those players, saying exactly how much fun it is to play at a D3 school? And John's sitting over there because he's at a D3 school. But Kim, you give the last parting statements to these young aspiring athletes.
I think that Division III, sometimes people don't realize just how competitive it is. And sometimes I've been a part of some sloppy volleyball matches at Division III, absolutely. But that championship match, Kelvin and our team, it was a clean, beautiful match. It was a beautifully played match. And I think it was just a great representation of what is great about Division III. And, the pictures that you were thrown up on the screen, it's just the pure joy of playing. They're not getting paid to play. They're not getting a scholarship. They're getting an education, and to be able to have a championship experience, whether you win it or not. I think just it's the championship culture and the championship experience that that Division III can provide to really a lot of student athletes. So I love Division III. I mean, I definitely cut my teeth in Division III as well, and I love it. And I think it's a great environment for student athletes that want to be successful, both in the classroom and on the court or the field.
Okay. Hey, listen, thank you very much for coming on. And we are off to our Master Coaches Top 25.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Kim, thanks very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim.
Congratulations.
Congratulations is certainly in order.
Okay, Mick, over to you. Here we go.
Well, our top 25 is up for view tonight with Louisville versus Pittsburgh, and one of the biggest matches of all. And we have them at 1 and 3. We slipped Texas back in there at 2. But really it's unknown other than the stats. Brian and I have been talking about stats for 3 or 4 weeks now, and that we think the body of work that you do on the court should be included in this a little bit. So that's how Texas gets back there. We have Purdue up at 4 because they're coming on late here, but Wisconsin is still good. And boy, Wisconsin was almost out of the match the other night. They came back to win. So those 5 are pretty darn special. The question is still, where is BYU? And one of you asked the question to Dan about BYU today. And he indicated that they may have, and I'm not quoting him, I'm going to say I got this between the lines, that they may have some passing problems. He said they can hit with anybody, I believe, but if you can serve them tough, maybe they struggle a little bit. So that's something to look at. Our poll has Nebraska moving up because they did some amazing play this last weekend. Penn State had them 22-15. They came back and won not only that game, but the match. So they're playing their best volleyball, and they still keep bringing players in that we haven't seen too much of, and they have great games. They're followed by Kentucky, who big match this weekend, 2 big matches with Florida. And that's really an SC battle. I don't know if you could have scheduled that any better, but having those 2 play at the end is pretty good, and that's gonna do something. Baylor's already had their shot at Texas, and they were able to get them once out of 2 times that they played. Ohio State's a mystery to me. I think
you've got about 30 seconds, Mick.
Okay, well, I'll just stay with the top 10, but Ohio State's a mystery because they don't score all the time. But when Londot is on, the big right side who really can terminate the ball, when she can terminate and get 4 or 5 kills per set, they're a threat, and they're a threat to get to the Final Four. So that would be our top 10. And of course, down at the bottom, the last thing, Mississippi State, we moved them into 24. We like our rankings. I think they're pretty solid. Might be 1 or 2 different positions, but they match up pretty well with a lot of things.
Okay, that's great. All right. A very special shout out to our 119 guests who have shared their insights with us over the past 79 weeks. Hall of Famers with years of success bring you drills across all positions. Don't forget to take advantage of our Master Coaches Stream 18 full-length on-demand series by jumping over to our Instagram. 2021 AVCA Convention in Columbus, Ohio. You may jump over to avcaconvention.org to register today. Be sure to tell your friends about the weekly news show, and don't forget to send in your questions or your feedback from our buzz or our buzz reaction. Happy Thanksgiving and have a safe and enjoyable time with your team, family, and loved ones. And thanks for joining us today, and see you next week on The Buzz.